My name's Ian Baldwin. I'm a co-CEO of Building Supplies Online. We can see the business around 10 years ago, really looking at a gap in the market for a company that was sitting between a traditional DIY shed and a builder's merchant. So we're an online business that sells traditional building products to tradespeople and consumers. And we really started from a small acorn, only 2 of us in the business, and we grew it organically over 2 or 3 years, adding product and inventory in, servicing the tradespeople, and really see some great growth in the early years. About 5 or 6 years into the business, we moved our e-commerce platform onto a more up-to-date system and see the business really move on a gear. Then after a few more years, we basically realised that the growth we wanted to achieve, we needed some help. So we looked around at a partner to really sit alongside us and help us reach the objectives that we were trying to achieve, which was become one of the disruptive businesses within the online DIY and trade sector. At that point we met someone called Capital, and we decided to partner with them, and we've been with them since around November 2017, and since then we've seen our growth accelerate through. We've got an excellent board on board with us now that help us, really connect us with the outside world, whereas we was really in a sort of bubble on our own, and now we've been exposed to much greater contact depth. And yeah, we really have got some great growth plans over the next 3 to 5 years, which involves upscaling our infrastructure, recruitment, getting some industry experts within BSO to really help drive the business forward. But the main focus of BSO now is really servicing that trade customer and making sure that we offer something slightly different to a traditional merchant that they don't get. So we're looking at delivery proposition and service as our 2 main drivers going forward. And we're really excited about the next 3 to 5 years and where we can end up. We're aiming to be around a 50, £100 million business within 5 years. So we've got some ambitious targets, but we've got the right people on board, and hopefully the technology that we employ will underpin that. After we completed the transaction with Capital, we employed a consultancy to create a blueprint for us, a plan to see us over the next 3 or 5 years, and that involved how we go about penetrating different markets, etc. And it's a really comprehensive plan. The problem we found with that was that how we actually monitor and get a clear overview of it, other than a document, it was quite difficult. So we came across EXM, and what they did was overlay our business plan onto their system for us. It enables us to see key value drivers and make sure that we're hitting those KPIs within that. Otherwise we're left with a suite of documents that we can't really pull together that well, and people involved in the business, both outside and in, struggle to track where we are. So once we've got a plan on EXM, we really found that it helped us visualise and keep track and report on where we were with our key value drivers. And I think going forward, if we use EXM to make sure we're on target, and you can adapt it, and we've changed it slightly from the initial plan, but fundamentally it is our blueprint on a system which we can track both individual KPIs and business KPIs on. The transition to EXM has been really seamless in the fact that they understood from a private equity background what we needed to see and how that business plan would look on their system. And obviously working with them ongoingly, we've managed to really tweak the system so that we get what we need out of it. So we use it for things like managing our board reporting. So we create board meetings on there, put our board packs on there, so we can archive all that. We can see where we are in the curve, so if we're off on a certain tangent, then that pulls us back, and it creates alerts to myself, team, and the private equity fund that things aren't either going well or things are going way above what we thought, and it really dials us back in to focus on what we should be doing. So the reason why it's also a good fit is because the people involved in EXM are very much aligned with private equity and the fund management and the business as well. So rather than sitting on one fence, we found that we can work well with both private equity and EXM to get a solution which really creates value from the plan, because otherwise, as I said, it'd be sitting as a dormant document and it's really hard to execute and manage. So I think, you know, going forward, we'll probably add some more things to it, but fundamentally on a day-to-day basis, some of my team are using it for individual KPIs. We're using it certainly as a business plan overview. We're dialing into the fund in terms of KPI metrics. The idea behind EXM is that we overlay our business KPIs and everything which we look at onto EXM, so everyone can dial into it and get a good overview of where we're at. Great for team motivation in terms of people seeing where they're at individually, and also it makes them feel part of the business in the fact that they can see where we are with the progress of BSO as a whole. So really helps in terms of getting everyone involved. We tend to use the phone app quite a lot as well, because some of my staff are out on the road, so they can dial update KPIs on the fly almost. So that's really useful as well. But yeah, you know, I think it's going to add value to our business in the fact that it really gives a live early indicator of when things aren't on track, and if things are going really well in one aspect, we can push the dial. From the start, I mean, Hydra EXM took the business plan, done a fantastic job of taking that plan, which was a huge piece of work. You know, very extensive. We had a consultancy work on it for 3 months, so by no means was it a small piece of work. It was a massive piece of work. They managed to overlay that really well. So when we opened up EXM initially, it looked identical to the plan that we saw on the document. The great thing is that they work with us and able to tailor it. So initially the plan was on there, but we want to see some different outputs, or maybe things have slightly changed. The great thing about the relationship is that they've been flexible and can tweak things for us. So we've made a few fundamental tweaks along the way, and we're getting to the point where we're 100% happy, and things change anyway, so it's been really flexible to enable us to change when we need to. As opposed to having a plan and not having EXM, EXM allows us to adapt the plan quite quickly, and it affects all the other drivers. So if we've got a plan which basically all the drivers sit in silos separately, what EXM manages to do is pull those drivers together and see what effect it has on the overall value plan. So at any point we can see that any new things that we actually want to do, how that affects both the value of the plan, the value of the drivers, and basically needs it all together, which we wouldn't see from a purely documentative point of view. So it's been really good in that if we want to do something or the plans change slightly, we know it's flexible, we know we can add it into the EXM, and we can also see the output in terms of what it looks like and how that affects the value of the business. The great thing about the EXM is that basically the communication channels are made so much easier because everyone's alerted to when something changes, so everyone can be assigned certain tasks or objectives within the programme, and the communication channels, we don't find ourselves having to do as many phone calls, as many emails, because everything's there for anyone to dial into at any one point. So I think, as the plan gets bigger, as it will do and evolves, the scalability of it is much easier to manage communication wise, because literally we don't need to increase our communication or create a cottage industry out of mini reports about these things. So it really helps in that aspect. The relationship with investor improves immensely in terms of they understand where we are in the grand plan at any one point, which means we don't have to feed into them as much as we would do if we didn't have EXM, because otherwise they're not too sure on the progress. With EXM, we've created a method of communication which doesn't involve them helicoptering over us every single week, all day, when they can see the trajectory and the direction of travel, at any one point that they feel more comfortable with where we're going and how we're doing. So it really gives transparency to not only the business but the investors as well. So it gives us confidence and gives them confidence of what we're doing. The good thing about EXM is, unlike some things that we may have implemented in the past, is that the learning curve is very, very short. So it's very steep and short. Once people start using it within a few days, it really is straightforward. The functionality in terms of searching and assigning yourself tasks and objectives is very straightforward. So there isn't a great deal of training that's needed for someone to get on board with the EXM. And now the staff can see the value from it, especially when they're involved in tracking their own KPIs. We've managed to overlay some key staff members that are fiscally targeted onto EXM, so instead of creating separate reports for them, again, they can dial into their own logins, see where they are with their own KPIs, which as a motivating factor is a great thing. It involves less work our end as well. So once you set it up, it really does flow through quite nicely, and as I said, most of the team are now really comfortable with it, and it didn't take very long to get on board with it. I see the relationship growing with Hydra, EXM and BSO in that the more day-to-day functionality of reporting, communication between us and a private equity fund is taking the burden from the manual side. So we spend a lot of time creating reports and updating KPIs and things that we do on a separate manual basis. We really want to look at building into EXM. So eventually it's an all-encompassing piece of software that basically looks at the business from a big fisheye lens, and we can dial into various departments from there.